Okay, you know
Yeah.
what?
Okay. September
Hear me
20.
here. Hear me here.
Mm-hmm.
Like straight from the get go, when you seen this announcement of like the 30 series Nvidia cards,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think? What'd you think?
I didn't care.
You didn't care.
Like,
Now,
but that's because I don't need to upgrade. If I still had my 980, then I would definitely jump on a 3070.
okay.
100% I would jump on the 3070. I
Now,
wouldn't get 3080 because it's the jump, like the price isn't enough to make me want to get, like, I don't need something that's four times or two times better than a 2080 Super. I don't care.
mm-hmm. Now,
I
but you have
the
a 1080 Ti, right?
mhm.
So you're telling me to this day, a 1080 Ti is still able to get the results out of the games that you want to play?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I can hit like 100 over 100 average FPS on Final Fantasy 14, which is a pretty graphically intensive game.
Yeah, when I play that, the times I played that game at like 4K, my fucking system, like the
Yeah,
fans go off the
screaming.
rockers.
Yeah.
Like if I kept the glass on my PC case, it would melt the inside of my PC if I
Mi-
played for longer than half an
Mine's
hour.
PV. Mine's like PVC, and I have a shit ton of fans. My computer has two fans on the front, a fan on the back, two fans on the top. My GPU has three fans, and
Holy
I have a fan on the
shit.
bottom for my power supply.
Oh my freaking god,
I
man.
got a lot of fans.
That's a lot of fans for a 1080
Yeah,
Ti.
yeah,
Holy shit. You know what? It's funny cuz when I was clicking on this article and I went to go check out some of the comments, there were some people who were in the same boat as you. Like, "Hey, I got a 1080 Ti and I'm still playing all the games I want to play without having any issues, you know? They only
yeah,
talk about the temptation of getting something that's better, but that's just because they like the idea of having an upgrade. They don't need an upgrade.
yeah.
So when they release this 20 series, I keep in mind like I bought my PC. My PC is not even a year old, and mine is with the 2080.
Yeah.
And only a few months. It took what the time that quarantine happened
Right.
till what now? They've come out with new cards already.
I know. It's
And
dumb.
yeah, but
Like
like
it.
looking
I
okay, so
feel
looking at
like
the numbers, what do
yeah.
you think about the numbers that they're showing?
I feel like I wasted money on a 1080 Ti.
Do you?
I feel like I wasted a lot of money on it.
Okay,
I wasted like a grand when like the problem is the 3070 heavily outperforms a 2080 Ti, and
right.
it's $600 Canadian, $700 Canadian.
Mm,
My card does not outperform a 2080 Ti, or probably doesn't even come close to it.
right.
And my card was $1,000,
Right, right, right.
so it just feels like a
I
waste
see
of money.
I see what you're
Like,
saying, but if you don't have to upgrade, again, when you bought your 1080 Ti, you probably couldn't, like, could you have seen them making these cards?
not not big changes like this.
Not big changes like this, right? So obviously, this probably shocked a lot of people with the kind of performance boost that they're going to get out of this. I don't understand the numbers myself, not all of them, but when I was looking at it, I was like, wait a minute, a 30 series. The moment I saw a 3080, 3090, I was like, wait, they're doing
Yeah,
they're doing like the six. They're kind of like doing like that the iPhone treatment. Like this every 6 months, the iPhone gets a brand new camera. It gets a
that's about
brand.
it though.
Yeah, yeah, right.
iPhone barely gets better every year.
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you
But
something right
like,
now. Like when I upgraded from my SE to the iPhone 11, the
yeah,
difference was quite shocking. But I waited a long ass time to do that.
yeah.
So
I
I
usually
seen
wait.
the upgrade.
I usually wait like 2 years or so, probably about 2 years to upgrade my phone.
Right.
But yeah, like if you're just going by their charts here with the 30 series,
Hmm.
the 3070 is 100 performs better than the 2070 Super by like 100%.
By
And
100%?
so if we're looking at a 1080 Ti, it's the same thing. It's like 100% better. The 1080 Ti actually performs slightly worse than the 2070 Super based on the chart they're using.
Holy shit, are you
Yeah,
serious?
and the 2070 Super is cheaper than a 1080 Ti.
That's that is
So
so strange. Like when they do things like that, it just seems like how is that not shooting themselves in the foot?
it kind of is. That's why
Right?
I think like I think they have the technology to do better than this. They're just doing what iPhone does, and instead of making small changes, they make drastic changes, but
Yeah.
still keeping in mind that they could do better.
Yeah.
And they're using it as like a cash grab. I think the 20 series was like a cash grab because there's still not like any games that utilize our ray tracing.
I-
It's like Call of Duty, and then even then,
Yo.
why would you buy an RTX just for ray tracing? It's just special lighting. It's not even like
You know what?
that big of a graphical upgrade. It's just lighting. It's something like if you're playing Call of Duty, you're not going to notice when you're walking around during the intensity of the gameplay. Oh wow, that train car looks really good under this RTX lighting. It's like no one gives a shit while you're actually playing the game. You
mm.
just want the high FPS. So
Oh.
I feel like they could probably even do better than this. But this is a huge upgrade, and if I'm tempted to upgrade to this, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'd
You-
probably wait
okay.
until the next series comes out and
Yeah.
then upgrade. So
Like
maybe
the
maybe
40 series?
yeah, like I feel like that's gonna be an even bigger jump than this.
Holy
That's what I mean. Like
shit.
Apple has the technology. It's like Apple. They have the technology to make their phones really good, but they don't do it because they want to capitalize on the
Capitalize.
money grab. It's a cash grab.
Yeah.
I think maybe the 20 series was a cash grab.
Mm.
There's no way in 2 years you can come up with architecture that is this much better
Right.
without already having an idea of how to do it.
Mm. Now,
Like
have
it's
you?
crazy the performance upgrades.
Yeah. You know what? Again, I got to take your word for it on that because again, you understand more of these numbers than I do. But well, have you seen ray tracing? Like, can the 1080 Ti doesn't even have the option to turn that stuff on, right?
You could, but the 1080 Ti is really bad at it. It
Right.
doesn't
Right.
have good architecture for ray tracing.
You know what's funny? Like, I got the RTX 280, and every now and then, like, I was talking to somebody about this just the other day. Oh, somebody at work was telling me that like he had seen the new upgrades of Nvidia, and
Mhm.
he was telling me he's like, yeah, you know what, man? Like he was telling me he's got like a 980 or something like that. So
That's what I had, yeah.
yeah, so and he's had that for years. And he hasn't seen the incremental upgrades as time has went on. He goes, "Yo, like when these things drop, I think I'm just gonna go for the highest possible, which is the 390 at this point,
Yeah,
right?
no, the 3090 is
Yeah, 3090s.
not a good deal. You want at most a 3080,
Mm,
but 3070 is optimal.
right. But he was just saying, you know what? It's been a very long time since I last upgraded. I think I might as well just bump it up to the max and just have
Yeah.
that upgrade for however long, essentially. Which
The
which
Oh,
again,
yeah, go
it's
ahead.
like it makes sense. If you're gonna wait that long to upgrade, then why not do it that way? Just wait it
Yeah.
out. But I will say this: the times I've turned on, so like when I was playing Control way back when, and I turned the ray
Mm.
tracing on, I gotta be honest with you, like at least in terms of like the indoor environments,
It looks good.
like that shit looked crazy. And you know what? It's so goddamn like the ray tracing is so taxing on your machine that when you turn this shit on, even if you're playing at like 1080p, even if
Yeah.
you're playing at 1080p, you turn ray tracing on, and all the little it has like its own list of boxes of like
Mhm.
extra details you can throw on. Oh, you want ray
Yeah,
tracing on all the little particles and shit like
'cause
that, or it
the way
almost
that
transforms the game just on the lighting alone.
yeah. Well, the
It's
way that ray
fucking
tracing
crazy.
works is the rays from the light source hit an object and then bounce off, right?
Mm,
And then you calculate in your like you set in your calculations how many times you want that light ray to bounce off other objects.
yeah.
And now you have like billions of those light rays going at a time, bouncing all over the place and going crazy
Right. Right.
at however many times you want it to bounce.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes taxing. It's not the light itself; it's when it bounces off an object and reflects to somewhere else. That's what's hacking, because then you have to calculate at that instance where it's going to go from there. Normally, what you would do is you would shoot the ray at an object and then just bounce it back at your eye, wherever the camera is.
Right.
But what they do is they bounce it off everything else, however
Mhm.
many times, and then they send it back to the eye. So
Right.
everything looks more realistically lighted.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's a bit
So it's kind of like
really
a game that
taxing.
has like really good physics engines, right? Where everything is reacting on screen at the same
Yeah.
time. But now you have games that have and Control has some pretty fucking crazy physics. Like the way you can blow shit
Yeah.
up and the way the particles fly everywhere. So they got really good physics engines coming out here in some of these games, and now they're trying to add on realistic lighting engines to this
Yeah.
to on
Well,
top of it.
the big difference between physics and graphics is that graphics is solely on the GPU.
Okay.
Physics is CPU
CPU.
intensive.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
right? Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
So
shit, man.
graphics is only handling anything graphics related. All the stuff on the screen that you can see,
Mhm.
everything behind the scenes, like the physics and such, is CPU.
Okay, so that's when you need like
Which
the
is why,
Intel i9
yeah, that's why you
12,000.
also need, because if everything was done by the graphics card, realistically, you probably wouldn't need a very strong CPU to run games that use RTX. But
Right.
games that have RTX are usually also have complicated physics.
Mhm.
So
So
you'll need a good CPU as well.
the part that kind of gets me, the part that kind of gets me about some of this stuff is like we have like like the next gen consoles are coming out and they're claiming that they want to have ray tracing in the systems as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Nvidia is like with now that Nvidia is releasing this 30 series, they've already shown that their 20 series can't, unless you're buying the 2080 Ti, I'm guessing, they can't really, like your system can't really handle this kind of shit if you
It
plan to.
depends. It depends on your resolution.
Yeah,
You'll want, like,
fair
if
enough.
you have a 1440p monitor or a 4K monitor, you're
Mhm.
probably gonna want to wait for the Ti series for the 30 series. You'll probably
Okay.
want a 3080 Ti.
Yeah.
Um,
They didn't even announce that in this article.
yeah, the Ti will usually come out like a few months later. They'll announce
Oh,
it,
oh my
but
god.
you'll want the Ti for higher resolutions. The 3080 you shouldn't even get. You could probably get that and be good on a 1440p monitor.
Right.
But if you want above 100 FPS, if you
Oh
have
my
like one,
god.
if you have 1440p, like 144 hertz, 165 hertz, you'll want to
Holy
wait for the Ti.
shit.
Otherwise, for 1080p, like, get the 3070. It's the best deal.
Yeah.
It's an insane,
Insane step up, eh?
insane deal. It's a huge step up. It, like, that's what I mean. It kind of seems like like the 20 series was like a cash grab. How
Yeah.
does the 3070 heavily outperform a 2080? A 2080
That's
Super, it's like still like 50% faster,
that's the
maybe
part.
more.
Like when you said that earlier, I kind of like my jaw just dropped because when I was buying my computer, just by looking at the difference between the 20, like looking at the difference between the 2060, the 2070, 2080 and 2080 Ti, that bump from the 2080 to the 2080 Ti was like a $700 difference.
Yeah.
I was like, what the
It's
hell
like
is this?
the performance difference between I think it's a 1080 and a 2080 is something like 30%, 35%, I think, maybe
Mhm.
50% at most.
Right,
But the
right.
price difference is like pretty big.
It is. Like that's
And
that's the part
and
that
that
really
like
gets you.
and it kind of makes it not worth, because the 2080 is, well, these days I think it's more expensive. But
Huh. Now,
the 3070 is cheaper than, like, I think, like, most of the 20 series,
yeah,
most of the high-end 20 series,
you don't
and it
say.
outperforms them all. So that's why it's kind of weird, but
Freaking
it's definitely not,
strange.
if you're running like a 10 series or a 9 series,
Hmm.
you'll probably want to upgrade to at least a
Shit,
3070.
man. That is
It's a
unbelievable.
huge cash, like, it's a good deal.
Yeah, but okay, so here's the thing. Like growing up, like I know PC guys have always been talking about how, hey, look, if you play on consoles, you're a peasant. You shouldn't be gaming. You don't know nothing about the world. Like I heard all this kind of shit growing up, but
Mhm.
they always talked about, hey, look, you know what? You're always constantly going to be upgrading your PC, right? But you don't have to worry about buying or waiting out for a certain
You have
console to drop
yeah,
every 5 years,
yeah,
right?
you don't have to wait like 5 to 7 years to upgrade. You can just do it whenever you want.
You can
Also,
just do whatever.
you have the convenience of it being a PC. You can't do a lot like
Like the
you're limited
customizing
to
the games
yeah.
to play exactly how you want to play. Yeah, and that's great. But I also don't recall these companies coming out with parts every well, in this case, like that was a very short time window for announcing a new graphics card, a new series of graphics
Yeah,
cards.
that's what I
Like,
mean. Like it's only been 2 years, and the 30 series is way better than the 20 series.
yeah. But do you think, like, how do these pieces, like, how do, okay, so how does Nvidia, and let's just say AMW, I don't really know much about AMW myself. AMW,
AMD.
sorry. Yeah, yeah, you want, yo, I can tell you the difference between a popped burger
I
and a
can tell you,
grandma
yeah,
burger.
I can tell you about the Graham Papa burger.
um,
Uh,
yeah, I don't really understand the difference between the two. I've only ever really delved into Nvidia, but if they take the same kind of approach and introduce a new series of graphics cards in their line, are PC guy, like, again, because you're a PC guy, you're not falling for it now. How do they expect this kind of how do they expect this kind of thing to work? Like this marketing scheme,
well,
if people already
it's
are very conscious of holding back on
it's the
buying new
same
parts.
thing. I'm gonna compare it to Apple again. It's the same idea where like no matter what people say, there's always gonna be people that will buy it. Like everybody knows, Apple makes almost they make like negligible upgrades. Like they're maybe the camera's slightly better,
Right, right.
and the phone has like slightly faster CPU and like video card on it.
Yeah.
Maybe some more RAM,
Yeah, yeah.
but and like they'll add like some different architecture. Like I know the Face ID thing is pretty good on it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I will admit. That is pretty sweet.
It's just people will always upgrade because they just see it as being better and they don't want to be behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a bandwagon thing where it's like oh, my friend is getting this. Oh, that means I have to get it too because I don't want to have less FPS. But
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know. FPS isn't necessarily tied to how good you are.
You
There
mean
are,
like you're talking about like gaming skill now?
yeah. Like people think that like, oh, you need a high refresh rate and you need like a super crazy amount of frames to be good at a game.
Mm,
There's people in like League of Legends who are like, there's a specific guy who's always in like the top 300 in North America.
right.
He plays on a laptop with a trackpad,
Yeah.
and he's constantly in like the top 300, usually top 100 in North America.
It's,
Anyway,
yeah, it's
on
true.
a trackpad, he doesn't use a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
He puts the laptop on his lap and he streams like that and he uses the trackpad and you know like you don't need like crazy peripherals or you don't need crazy specs and stuff
Yeah.
to be good at a game.
Right, right.
People just think that I feel like it's a kind of like a mentality where people believe that like the hardware can make up for how bad they are.
Yeah.
Oh, if I get good hardware, that means that I can play better.
Mm.
But that's not the case.
That's very true. That's very very true. Now, if you have bad hardware and your console's skipping frames and you can't keep track, you got muddy textures, you can't tell somebody's head from the window, then
That's a bit different.
that is a bit different, right?
But
But no, you're absolutely right.
but
You're absolutely right. Always got but.
like it goes both ways. So like you can have insane specs and be really good, or
Yep.
insane specs and be really bad. It's the same thing. You can have really bad specs and be really bad,
Yeah.
really bad specs and be really good. It's
Yeah.
it
It
all
doesn't
depends.
really go hand in hand.
Yeah,
Like
and but
it's
people
all
think
personal
that.
preference.
But people think that, and that's kind of the way they market it. Is like, oh, you know, you can. This is 300% better, or 2 times better than the previous line of GPUs, which means that you'll
Yeah.
get that much more FPS.
You know what? Yeah,
Doesn't matter
you're
though.
freaking right about that. I think I told you a long time ago that like when I was buying my new monitor, you were asking me how many hertz it was. And I
Yeah.
do believe I told you straight off the bat. I said, "Look, I don't really need to play anything above
hmm
60." Like coming from console to PC now. I said, look, if I play games at 1080p, 60 frames, if
Yeah.
it's locked, I really don't give a shit. You laughed at
My
me that day because you're like, man, you have no
yeah.
idea what it's like to play at
My
144,
well,
240.
it's true that it like my mindset's changed since then. I think that was what like 2 or 3 years ago,
Hmm.
probably. Um, it's changed since then. I like at the time I was like, oh, I just upgraded to my monitor. It's so super smooth. Now everybody has to have. If you don't have one,
Hmm.
you're you're a scrub or whatever. And I mean, it does make a big difference.
It does.
But
No, like when I seen it at
it's
your
like
house, I was like, oh shit! Like that
it's like
extra bit of smoothness was almost jaw dropping.
yeah,
It's like
it's
you can't really comprehend it until you see it in person. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, okay,
exactly.
like if we go back to that ray tracing example, just really quick, it's
Mhm.
like unless you see it in person on a beefed up system in a game where it's running a live action demo, you're playing the game and you got everything maxed out, ray tracing's all like everything, the physics engine, all this is jacked up to
Yeah,
the max, and you have a console that's truly designed to play whatever game they have showing. You won't truly be blown away, right? So that
exactly.
144 thing, like when you told me, hey, look, sit down in this chair and play a game, like take a look at it, a game that utilizes 144 frames. I looked at it and it was like a different kind of smoothness. It was like, holy
Yeah,
shit,
it's weird.
unbelievable.
It's kind of what I don't like about like this the console like philosophy is like they try to make the games look better, but what
Right.
I feel like they should strive for is just more frames. They should go for like at least 60.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know why they're focused on ray tracing and making these games look amazing. You're still gonna be at 30 FPS.
I don't know why either.
I
That's a
I don't get it.
fantastic point. It's a fantastic point. And you know what's funny? I was planning on doing another video. Like I was gonna do it before the before I wanted to do this Nvidia one. And
Mhm.
it was like Game Informer's next gen survey. Like which console are you more happy about? Or sorry, which console will you be buying? And what kind of things are you looking forward to with the next generation of gaming and things like that,
Yeah.
right? And that was one of the questions. Was like, hey, like what do you think you're looking most forward to? It was like, oh, better graphics, smoother frame rates, faster loading times. Like it was like a
That's
multiple
and
choice. And I was sitting there going, you know what? This is almost a no brainer for me, to be honest. But no, like you fucking brought it up too, and I've been saying this for goddamn ever, man. I don't
yeah,
care. Like we can get amazing looking games at 1080p, but for some reason these games don't always perform the way you need them to. You know,
exactly.
I tried the Marvel's Avengers beta.
Oh, that game runs horribly.
Holy shit, Joseph. The goddamn game, you see it gets to this point, like it's a generic game. It just feels like like it's kind of generic, right? But it comes together when you're supposed to be with a team, right? However, when you get with a
Yeah.
team, the frames drop so goddamn bad. And I'm sitting here like, wait, it's not the best looking game in the world, but at least it could have had the frame rate lock at 30 when you're playing with your team. Like what the fuck? But yeah, let's include more explosions in our games. Let's include ray tracing in our games. Let's have 4K graphics, and let's have 20 let's have 10 to 20 frames per second in the games while
Mhm.
we're doing this shit. I'm so worried about the next gen consoles.
They're gonna so I think what I saw was like PS4 games will be 60 FPS, most of them I think. And
You mean
then
PS5?
whether the game runs at 30 or 60 for the next gen games is going to be up to the developer.
Yep. As it's
I
always
think
been.
it's weird like I don't know why. Maybe because they haven't experienced it, but I don't know why console players are okay with playing at 30 FPS. It's
Now,
such a big difference from 30 to 60. It is huge.
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Especially when it comes to competitive games. There are games now where if it plays at 35, you remember the Hunt Showdown?
Mhm.
They ported
Yep.
that over to the console. And you know what? Uh one of the guys was telling he was actually interested in the game. Like we were playing Apex and he was just looking for like more battle royale kind of games, and we were looking at that. And I said, "You know what? I had it on PC. Like I have it on PC. Like it's not bad. It's different. It's a different
Yeah,
style of game, but it's really cool. That would be awesome if we could play it together. And I searched up online, hey, what does this play out on console? And apparently it's like 30 frames or sub 30. And I was like, fuck,
yeah,
man. That's supposed to be a competitive game, and it doesn't even run at a competitive frame rate. To me, that's a buzzkill. That's a buzzkill. However, I played Ghost of Tsushima on my PlayStation. And you know what? When the game is able to stay locked at 30 for majority of the time, their consoles, they will always be pushed at some point in a game.
yeah,
Always.
exactly.
But when for the majority of the time, if it's locked at 30, I don't mind it. However, we're talking about next gen consoles now. We're talking about next gen PC hardware. If these games aren't being optimized to run at 60 frames, why do we keep upgrading these
Yeah,
consoles?
they keep they purposely strive for better graphics and better AI and
Yeah,
stuff like that, but
absolutely.
it's
And then
weird that they would rather have that than better performance.
I
I mean,
don't
like,
understand.
good graphics are a good selling point, and so is good. Obviously, you need good AI,
Yeah, absolutely.
but it's kind of weird because I feel like 60 FPS would be a better selling point than better graphics. Like, you can still improve the graphics and have better FPS
I
because the
truly
architecture
believe so.
is a lot better on these new gen consoles.
Yeah,
Everybody's excited for like, oh, we're getting SSDs and stuff like that, and 10 teraflops on my console, but it's like those don't really mean anything. You're still at 30 FPS.
yeah,
You haven't you haven't made any sort of progression besides graphics and
right,
loading screens. And
right.
SSDs have been out on for computers for like I think fuck, they've been out for a while now.
Yeah.
If you don't have an SSD, you're weird. It's that kind of thing.
You shouldn't be allowed here no more.
Like you should have an SSD by now.
Holy
They're
shit.
not expensive at all. And like you don't even need a big one. You need like 128 gigs for your Windows. You don't need like an NVMe SSD or like a Samsung 980 Pro or whatever.
Right,
And
right.
you don't need any of that. Just get a basic SSD and your run times, your loading times have already increased
Mm,
tenfold.
right, right.
It's just like yeah, the loading screens are annoying on consoles because like
Sometimes. What?
Final Fantasy 15 was one of them where it took like 3 minutes to load in or something, 5 minutes to load in.
Yep.
But
You know what? But again, it all depends on the optimization. Ghost of Tsushima, they had to patch in longer load screens because apparently the game was so instantaneous you couldn't read the
yeah,
tips. And I'm like, okay,
exactly.
so how come these guys can do it, but not every developer is showing that same kind of care? So we have consoles who don't. We have developers who develop games for consoles, and they don't want to push the boundaries with all this architecture they have to work with. So we're getting games that aren't performing like they should.
They're not performing better. They're just looking better.
Exactly. But now in this case, if we go back to the PC, we got an RTX 3090 that's coming out, and it's claiming that it can run games at 60 frames in 8K.
See, to me, that's useless. Like,
Absolutely.
there's
Now, what do
like
you think is
one
useless?
8K monitor out there. It's stupid expensive. Otherwise, you have to use DSR.
Sorry, hold on, hold on.
And
Did you say there is an 8K monitor out there?
yeah,
Is there
there's an
really?
8K monitor. Yeah, it's like a Dell.
Really?
It's a Dell 32 inch.
Huh. I did
Um,
not know that. I assume it's only one monitor
Probably
out there right now.
Dell is usually always ahead of the monitor game when they have in terms of like resolutions.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Uh, 6,800 Canadian dollars.
What? And how big is
Like
it?
what? 32 inch.
What? Holy
It's dumb.
shit.
You'll like you don't need 8K. Honestly, I would say the upper limit is 4K, and now they have a 120 hertz 4K monitor.
Do they now?
Yeah,
Huh. Okay.
but
Do they
I'd
now?
say if you're just looking for overall like quality and like for it to look better, 4K is where you want to stay at. It's more reasonable. You don't have to spend $1,500 on a graphics
Absolutely.
card to just to hit 60 FPS at 8K.
No.
And you don't need the monitor either. I think if you have a 4K monitor, you can DSR too.
Hmm.
Um, you can use DSR to get to 8K.
Is that so?
Think so.
Like that to me is just it's just bonkers, man. It's just bonkers. I didn't know they had a 4K monitor that's now at 120 hertz. So
Yeah.
I remember at the time, around the time when I was looking to buy my new monitor, I was struggling to find something that was up to like I wanted HDR in it as well as 4K. I couldn't find one with HDR, so I bought a Samsung monitor that has QLED, which
Which is really good.
night and
QLED's
day difference.
really high quality
Oh,
colors.
it's beautiful. And you
Yeah.
know what? For me personally, I don't need anything better than this monitor.
Yeah.
Unless Samsung comes out with one and like years later, where it's 4K, it's got QLED, HDR plus, and it's got like 120 hertz or some shit like that. That's the only time I would ever really need
Yeah.
to upgrade. This
Yeah.
monitor looks exactly the way I want it to.
The
But
4K one that came out was I think Acer made it. It's supposed to be a really good monitor.
if it's from Acer, I have no doubt in my mind. I have
Acer
no doubt in my mind.
monitors are really high quality.
Okay, well there you go. That doesn't
Um,
surprise me. There's like some like when you search up monitors, those guys are like the first to show up.
yeah.
And Samsung, only because Samsung has like
Actually,
buying power.
it's 144 hertz 4K,
Hey, wow, holy shit.
which isn't a big difference from 120. Like the biggest jump is just going up from 60
Mm,
into to 120 or 144. Like once you go past 120,
right,
like
right.
if
It's
you
like a
go from
negligible
120 to
difference.
144, it's you probably won't notice the difference.
Right, right, right.
Even
Okay.
like 144 to 240, it's the difference is like
Mhm.
it's not much. Like
Like there were some people who
you,
like there are some people who argue you can't really notice the difference between 30 and 60. Like
that's dumb.
no,
That's dumb.
I know, but like
Yeah.
when I used to read some of these comments, I was like, like
They
unless
use
you never play games or some shit like that, you could
they use the
tell.
argument, "Oh, your eyes can't see more than 24 FPS," but
Yeah.
it's like the world doesn't work in FPS,
Yeah.
so they can.
Yeah, man. It's
Um,
like I'm looking right now. I'm like, nah, dude. I can
I
tell
watched
immediately.
what movie was it? I don't remember what movie it was. I went with my friend. We went to watch a movie, and it was in 48 FPS instead of 24,
Huh? Really?
and I kind of felt cross-eyed the whole time. It was so weird because it was
That's so
like
fucking
weirdly
strange.
smooth. It was like those really high quality TVs
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where everything's like stupid smooth. It was
Yeah,
like
and the
that, but in the
demos.
movie
Yep.
theater.
Wow. I remember that Will Smith movie Gemini Man came
Hmm.
out, and I can't remember the number of frames it was. It might have been I think it was something crazy like 200. But like in order to get cuz younger Will Smith was all AI.
Hmm.
And in order to make like the movements match up with Will Smith, they had to bump the frames on his made up character by like an astronomical amount. But you know what? People came out and said I didn't watch the movie because apparently it wasn't that good. But people came
Yeah.
out and said it looked unnatural on the screen. Like that's how high the frames were compared to everything else that was
Yeah.
in 24.
It's weird. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
It looks strange, right? But when you have in this case a game that has everything running and working smoothly with the hertz on your monitor, it all works in harmony.
Well, as long as you have G-Sync enabled,
Mm,
you should be okay.
okay, fair point.
Um, I
But
don't. Do you know what G-Sync does?
doesn't that smooth it out? Doesn't that match up?
It matches your
It
refresh
matches
rate
your refresh
to
rate.
your FPS.
Right.
So even when you drop frames,
Mm.
you won't notice it unless it's like a huge amount. Like if you go from 120 to 60, you'll see a difference.
Oh,
But
okay.
it won't be
Okay.
like night and day difference because your refresh rate is dropping with it.
Yeah.
So unless it's
Okay.
like in one instant you go from like 100 to 60 somehow,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it should be a pretty smooth transition and it won't be like crazy bad. As long
Hmm.
as you have G-Sync enabled, like you don't really have to worry.
Okay. Okay. Now, like, okay, hold on. So, like, this 8K 60 frames. Like you said earlier that you don't think Nvidia is truly showcasing all the power that they have.
I think they have more.
You think they have more power.
Yeah.
But let me ask you
Well,
this.
I
And
also
I'm
think
not,
Oh yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
yeah.
I'm just saying,
Mhm.
why would you need to go more than 8K 60 frames?
Because why not? That's about it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right.
That's about it. But that GPU that they have, you're probably gonna see that. Actually, you probably won't even use that for rendering videos and movies.
Well, we just we kind of touched
There's
upon
better
it.
cards for that. There's better cards. There's I think Quad it's called
Mm,
Quadro
right.
is good for video rendering stuff.
But even to this day, right now, we still don't have everything. Like 4K is not the standard right now.
No, it's still
It's still
1080p.
1080p. So it's like we're still trying to catch up to 4K in our movies, in our TV shows,
Yeah,
4K 60
even
frames in
then,
our games.
4K just got. I think it's still new to get the higher refresh rates. So like
Yeah.
4K is like
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
big jump. But
Like I buy 4K movies and people think I'm fucking crazy
you
because
have a 4K screen. Why not?
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
But your average everyday person is just going, well, if you look at the price of two, you're almost paying double for the movies, right?
yeah.
But I have the technology to do
Yeah,
it. So why
exactly,
not?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You can do it.
Yeah.
They can't do it, so they can't see the reason why you're doing it. But when it's like, okay, an example I can use that's pretty relatable. Audio files. Okay, the people that are really into high quality audio.
Yeah, I know where you're
Okay,
going
my
with
friend
this.
bought a DAC amp and headphones, $950 for the combo, but
Hmm.
you can't go back.
Right.
You can't go back from that because when you go to crappy headphones. Not even crappy. Like I have HD 598s. Like I have pretty decent headphones with a DAC amp. So like I have a decent setup.
Hmm.
But compared to his, my audio probably sounds flat. Probably sounds horrible. It sounds probably muddy and not clear.
Yeah.
He even subscribes to a high quality bitrate or a high bitrate streaming service for his music. It's like $25 a month versus Spotify, 13 or something. But
Yeah.
they use lossless files on that website. They don't use MP3s and such.
Holy shit.
So like, but you can't. The thing is once you have a taste of that, you're not gonna go backward. The
Yeah.
only way, the only direction you can go is forwards.
Hmm.
So it's like,
No, that's a good guy. That's a good point. And I agree
yeah,
wholeheartedly.
you can't go back on it.
Yeah,
You
you
can't.
can't. But the thing is, what you just described was, let's just say, I would classify it as like an exception to the rule, an audio file.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are not like these aren't your typical people that you meet out there. Like that's somebody who takes like is an enthusiast, you know? Like if you have your
Yeah,
license, you're going to buy a car. But it's a different kind of person that's going to look at every detail of the car and say, "Hey, look, you know what? The reason why I bought this one, they like their classic cars. They like their muscle cars. They like the Porsches, all this kind of stuff for all these different reasons."
exactly.
Those guys are completely different with their mentality compared to your average everyday person, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your everyday person is probably gonna go get a used 2015 car for
Exactly.
like
Like they don't
10
really
grand or something.
care. Like they're
Yeah,
not gonna.
they want something to get them from point A to point B. They don't.
Yeah.
If the ride is smooth, that's a bonus. But
Right.
they're not looking for like, oh, does it drive smooth? What size are the rims? What size are the tires? Like they don't care.
They don't. They really don't. Because again, like they're just focused on, hey, can this thing just do the basic things that I want?
Yeah.
So it's like I understand that what we're like, okay, what Nvidia's showing right here is for it's for the different consumer, right?
Yeah.
It's for the enthusiast. I get it. But even for me, like I like staying up to date in my technology too.
Hmm.
But even for me, I'm kind of like, oh, holy shit. Like the
But
jump
it's
for
like,
me is just insane.
yeah, it's like you will never go from 4K back to 1080p.
No, like
You
it's
you won't be
tough.
able you won't be able like it just looks so much worse. So it's the
It
same thing
does.
with like your phone. You can't go from a high end phone to a low end phone.
No.
You can't go from high end hardware in your computer to low end hardware because that means your frames are going to drop and
Yep.
you want to you, you're going to you want to maintain at least like your status quo where you're happy with, where
Mm-hmm.
you're at,
Right, right, right.
and you want to at least maintain that. You'll
Yeah.
never go below it, and that's why people keep buying and upgrading and upgrading and upgrading is because they don't want to go below what they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's also like it's also an interesting way that we think sometimes, because let's just say you have the best pot, like, okay, let's just say the 3090 is out, and again, we buy this. Let's say you and I buy this 3090, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm settling. I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my god, you know what? 8K 60 frames? Wow. I'm so blown away. I don't think I can get better than this. I don't think I need better than this. I don't think I want it. But
Yeah,
you, on the other hand, when they release the 40 series and they're saying now you can push, let's just
90
say,
FPS 8K,
yes,
100
yes.
FPS 8K. It's like, well, I got the better deal now because I waited, and now I get better FPS than you, and you don't want to upgrade because you had to spend $1,500 and your card is still working perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
So I feel like
or in this case, let's say if we both had the card, there's something about that 40 series that's gonna make you, even if the 30 series does everything you want it to do, just knowing that there's something better out there, you're already thinking, you know what, I need that thing because I want to
exactly.
be ahead of the game. Like, I want to be there, even if
Exactly.
nobody else is caught up yet. Like, no one's out. Like, okay, they're claiming it can play games at 8K 60 frames. They're claiming this, but I don't even think we have anything out here to test that
They've probably
live.
tested it. They've probably tested it because
Maybe
they're
they
gonna have
have,
the money to do it.
but
But
like, I mean, like you said before, in a real scenario,
no one's gonna
no
need
one's gonna,
that or
no,
want
no.
it.
Even when you're talking about the ray tracing, there, with how unbelievably realistic it looks, like with the marbles and shit like that, nobody's gonna be able to use that kind of power because it doesn't work in a live
Yeah, like no
dynamic
one's gonna. You're not
yeah,
gonna
I
pay
mean,
attention. It's like
scenario. That's what
it
I'm gonna
doesn't
say.
make a difference in how you play.
No,
So why do I need it?
right, right.
Like,
But
yeah, I
it's
mean,
just
you can
that
argue that bad hardware or good hardware doesn't make a difference, but I mean, it does.
it does.
It depends on the overall quality you want, right? If you want your game to look fantastic, sure, by all means, go buy the 3090 and play in 8K
Hmm.
with your ray tracing on.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's like it doesn't mean it doesn't do anything.
No.
Your average person's not going to use that.
Yeah. Then that to me is just, I don't know, man. I just thought it was fucking crazy when they showed this, man.
Yeah.
I.
Like, okay, in Call of Duty, Modern Warfare,
Mm,
I hit, I think, around 90 to 100 FPS at 1440p max graphic.
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with 90 to 100 FPS.
Hmm.
Some people aren't. So my monitor is 165 hertz. I don't care if I hit that.
Hmm.
Most other games will hit that.
Right.
But just because one game doesn't, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't even like Call of Duty that much, so it's even less of a big deal for me.
And you know what? That's actually, no, that's an interesting. Yeah, no, I like that right there. That poses another question of, okay, if all of these, you have the technology to run this shit at the maximum capabilities, what's the guarantee that everyone's going to utilize this? There's no
Exactly.
guarantee at all. It's not like, hey, Nvidia's coming out and telling people, if you want to make games on our graphics cards, you have to use every ounce of its power at all times.
Mhm.
Otherwise, your games won't allow it to be compatible with this. It'd be a stupid move business wise, but I'm just saying, like, these consoles, when they come out, they just allow the developers to essentially run around in the playground, right?
Yep.
And the playground is, in this case, the technology is much grander now than it was before. So you got a really big playground to play around with. But if some developers walk in and they only like to use the swings, they're gonna walk
Yeah.
off to that one side, and they're never gonna utilize they're not gonna see the monkey bars. They're not gonna see the fucking 20-foot slide they have. They don't give
The
a shit about the
jungle
jungle
gym. Yeah.
gym. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're not playing in the rest of the playground. So, like,
So
what's the point?
as soon as somebody doesn't implement RTX, it's useless.
Yeah. And you know what?
RTX is not like ray tracing is not an easy thing to code accurately.
No, I
Ray
bet
tracing is
it's
very
not.
complicated. Ray
I
tracing is very complicated and it's very taxing. Um,
yeah, yes it is.
uh, Another point I wanted to bring up was at some point these improvements are going to get to the point where they're very minimal.
Yeah.
And every 3 years they're going to bring out a new card. Every 4 years, Intel's already going to hit that point soon because you can only make the transistors in your CPUs so small until you can't fit anymore.
Hmm.
And at that point, you'll have to rely on quantum physics, where you'll need to have quantum processors and
Holy
quantum computers.
fuck. Holy
But
shit.
quantum computers are only good at like math. They don't really do anything else. I'm pretty sure they're not even like crazy powerful right now.
Oh my god.
They're very like niche in what they do.
Right, right, right.
And so like
One application
CPUs
only.
CPUs are already coming close to their like hard cap with the
Right.
current technology that we have. So
Holy
I think
shit.
GPUs are going to get there as well, unless they start making things bigger.
Right.
But being bigger means less accessible because that means you need to have more space.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a bigger CPU instead of that little tiny square, you could fit more transistors in there. But that means you need to make a whole new chipset, a whole new motherboard. Then that might change all the architecture around the motherboard.
God damn.
I don't necessarily know how it works, but
Right.
I'm
Those
assuming that if you make a change like changing the size of the processor, you probably have to change other stuff around the motherboard.
holy shit.
Then you're gonna need a bigger case.
See what I mean? Like
Go on, like it's like a snowball effect, right? Like
yeah. Could,
can't
one thing I do remember you telling me, and again I'll never forget this. But like when you told me that when you were buying a PC and you ever choose to upgrade, you have to make sure that you're upgrading incrementally all the time, like everything
yeah.
together. I I was like I was sitting here like holy shit. No, it makes sense. Otherwise, your PC's not going to run well or at all
Like yeah.
if you
I
go
could
too far ahead.
probably I could probably hit more FPS on Call of Duty if I had a better CPU and better motherboard, better RAM. I'm still on DDR3 RAM
Mm-hmm.
and a fourth gen Intel processor.
Right, right,
So I'm pretty behind on that stuff, but I mean it keeps up.
right. It does. It does. It keeps it rather well. The last time I seen, but yeah,
Yeah.
like when you're pushing for the
When it's
top of the
games like
line.
yeah, like Call of Duty, for example, um, 80 to 90 FPS is maybe my max.
Right.
92, yeah, around 90, 80, 90. But I probably, when I'm playing the game and if I'm playing something like Ground War, I'm probably sitting between 60 and 70,
Mm-hmm.
maybe upwards in the mid 70s.
Jesus Christ, man. I'm looking at
Yeah.
this. Sorry, I'm looking at this picture of this guy holding the RTX 3080. This guy, I guess he's like the spokesperson for
I
Nvidia.
heard the 3090 is huge.
Yeah, the guy holding it looks like he just looks like he just shit himself.
I want to see how big it
This
is.
guy,
Yeah,
this
look
guy
at
is
that
sitting there
thing.
like, holy shit.
How does that sit on your motherboard?
I don't know. Yo, you gotta get like a special stand for that inside your PC.
I
Holy
bet you they have
shit.
the weight on the website. It's probably like
That thing
60
is like,
pounds.
man, that thing looks like it's 5-10 pounds.
Does it tell the
you could
weight?
work out with that thing if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's 12 inches in length, 5 inches in width.
Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah.
god. That is insane to me.
How much does it weigh? 5.5 pounds.
5.5 pounds. Yo, that's like people use ankle weights that are that heavy. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my
You just put these
lord.
on your ankles and take a jog.
I'm telling you, man. Unbelievable. That's just insane, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
they look pretty, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Like those numbers, they kind of make me go. I may not understand what they all mean, but it does make me think like, oh fuck, there is something to look
That's the
forward to when
point
I
though.
upgrade, huh?
That's the point though. They'll throw numbers like, oh, 200 and something megawatts and whatever. Not megawatts, sorry, teraflops.
Right.
Oh, look at this. The 3090, 36 shader teraflop, 69 RT teraflop, 285 tensor teraflop.
Yeah.
You'll never need that many calculations in a second.
Uh, Holy
I mean,
fuck.
that's what it can push out, right?
Yeah.
That's its absolute max.
That's what it can do.
When it will get there, who knows? That's
Right.
what I'm
Who
saying. Like
knows?
if you're gonna upgrade, at most the 3080.
Hmm.
If you're running 4K and you have more than 60 hertz, get a 3080 Ti
Right.
if that's what you want. Otherwise, get a 3070. 3070 is, so from what they say anyway, from what they tell us,
Yeah.
its performance is insane for its price.
Yeah. It
Which is
just
why I
needs.
find it weird. How do you jump that much?
I don't know. And the thing is, like, it's always going to be nowadays. Like, we're living in this age where you don't really know how much is too much.
Yeah,
And okay, and then this the second half of that in terms of this technology is how, like, when are we gonna get there to the point where we can use everything that this system has to
exactly.
offer? Like, you're telling me these numbers here, you can't even fathom. And again, you have more knowledge about this stuff than I do. You can't even fathom when you're gonna use these numbers.
Yeah. Look at this. All right. The 3070 performs, what I can see, it's like maybe 20-30% faster than the 2080 Ti, and it's less than half the price. It's like one third of the price.
I don't get that, man. I don't get that.
The people who bought the 2080 Ti must feel really like ripped off.
I did read some comments where they were kind of pissed. They were like, "Wait a minute, I." They're like you can read the buyer's remorse in some of these comments, and you know what? These are the people who again are obviously into PC gaming. They had every intention to buy the next best thing at the time, which was the 2080s, the 2080
Yeah.
Ti's, and now that Nvidia has done this, I know for a fact these people are going to think more than twice before they decide to upgrade.
Yeah.
The same way Apple has programmed us to go, wait a minute, I'm not Joseph, no
Wait a
word of a
minute.
lie. No word of a lie. When my phone broke down, I said I would just buy another SC. Like, I like the way it operated. If I could just get this thing fixed, I would still use it. I wouldn't really buy a new phone if I could have gotten a quick fix. Let's just say,
Hmm.
right? I bought this iPhone 11 not even 1 week after a brand new iPhone SE was set to drop a week later.
Yep.
It only took two weeks from the time I decided I wanted to buy a new phone, and the iPhone 11 was still practically new.
It's buyer's remorse. Yeah.
You know what? It's not like, okay. In my scenario, it wasn't buyer's remorse. I love the phone, I really do, but it just made me think to myself, "Holy shit!" You're looking just when you're looking to upgrade now, you got to think twice about, wait, what if I wait just a month later? What if I wait like 2 months later? You never know when these new advancements are going to be dropped. You know,
Exactly. And most of the time, you don't even need to make that upgrade. You just want
you
it.
don't,
You don't need it. You don't need it.
you don't.
Like I would say these days, if you're running a 980, you probably want to get a 3070.
Yeah, if you're that far
You like
behind,
like
yeah,
you'll want one.
absolutely. But if you're
But
at like a 2080 Ti, I
yeah,
this
don't
30
upgrade. Yeah.
series, I wouldn't even let it. I wouldn't even lose sleep over this. Like, okay, I understand it's a shocking reveal. Oh my god, I just bought this fucking thing.
They're gonna do this every time though. They're gonna say, "Oh, this is the most powerful mainstream graphics card in
Absolutely.
the last however many years," and they're gonna, "Oh, this is the greatest generational leap." They're gonna do it every year because they know that when they use these certain words, it's gonna make people want to buy it.
Yep.
When you
It's
like
just
when you're
insane.
someone who doesn't know like a crazy amount, and you're just like you're new into computers and whatnot, you're gonna see the greatest generational leap ever in these big words, like in this announcement, and when they say it, they're gonna make it sound like some like huge thing.
Yeah. They're
You're
gonna
just gonna
say,
hop
"Oh,
on.
like next revolutionary graphics," and it's gonna show like a picture, like a high definition picture of me, or some shit like that, and they're gonna be like, "Oh my god, that looks like a real Mexican kid," And it's like,
Yeah,
"Oh shit, that it's gonna sell."
I gotta
Right
get
off.
this. Look, this
Yeah.
card can do 60 FPS at 8K. What can it do at 1440p, or what can it do at 1080p?
Yeah.
That's what
Oh
they're
my
gonna think.
god.
This is it's like words to entice the ignorant
Yeah, it's very
and
true, man.
the people who don't know any better.
It's very, very true. And you know what? Fuck. I think that's all I got. Joe, that's the video, man.
Not bad. It was a
Not
good
bad.
way you started it. Just kind of just did
I
it
didn't
without.
want to tell you. You know what? The moment you
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
that you were gonna get nervous, I was like, let me
but I knew right
smooth
away.
it.
I knew right away,
I
though.
know.
I knew in like the first couple minutes, but I was like, whatever.
I know. But you know what? You weren't that nervous. You weren't that nervous. You didn't sound that bad. You sounded really good, man. You sounded really good.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to thank you for joining me today. And
hmm
if by some chance you want to check out the channel or you want to check out
Maybe
just
if
the
you
video,
send me the maybe if you send me the proper link
I will
instead of
send
YouTube.com.
I will send you the proper link. But until then, this is Crimson. Until the next time we talk, guys, take it easy and we'll play and talk more another day.